다 공도 샤나 지변 권리야.
So I, I have explained in brief about the origin of the black crown.
제바 투모 메인버로 찍디 가르스나
One of the particular activities of the Karmapa is that it's not just that they wear a black crown. They also perform the special black crown
다 되게
ceremony.
우드야 지금 제고 서마르 다지 우샤 드야디 토마 커디 충벌했어 이제
So
TV미나
when did this ceremony, the black crown, originate? It's actually difficult to sort of arrange that, to definitely determine that.
까마버 개바 대주의 qab리야 다지 우샤 드야버디 대주
during the
바제
time of the,
서마르시 베르 정도
I think that it's recorded in a history written by the Eighth Pension that it was during the time of the Seventh and Eighth Karma, but that's definitely the one earliest time. It's possible that it also occurred earlier. So to speak about the black crown ceremony itself, there is a life story of the third Dalai Lama, Sunam Gyatso, written by the great fifth Dalai Lama, in which he has a short story about wearing the black.
qab리야 아니 겨와 손음 겨서 아니 까마버 제가 페브레스
The Dalai Lama Sunam
페두산
Sunam Gyatso went to see Wancho Dorje, and at that time, and he said, I would like to see the black crown. And when he said this, the Karma said, usually is only shown when there are large gatherings of the public or when there are great offerings. It's not, there's no particular history of doing this to private individuals. But if you, the Tulku Rinpoche, would like to see this, I will do this for you. And so he had the black crown brought, and he first had the Karmapa award on his head. And then, after the Karmapa award, then the Gyawa Sunam Gyatso made some offerings about that. And after Karmapa had worn the hat, Gyawa Sunam Gyatso asked, he received the hat in his hands just to look at it. And Gyawa Sunam Gyatso saw the black crown in the space in front of him, and for that reason he felt great faith in the Karmapa and his disciples. And so at that time, what the fifth Dalai Lama said is, therefore, there is no certainty that it is untrue that the black crown is made by the Dakinis. So this is what. So the fifth Dalai Lama always looked down on the Kajus, but at that time he said, maybe it's possible that it actually was made, the black crown was made by the Dakinis. Maybe it was so. So this is something that he said, and so this is it's like one story that I read. Generally, the ceremony for the black crown has changed many times. In the oral histories from older laws from Supa, that even during the lifetime of just the 16th Karmapa, there are many small changes that were made to the black crown ceremony. the most clear description of the Black Crown ceremony from the times of the earlier Karmapas is in Sita Chigijun's autobiography. What he writes is that he saw some notes taken during the time of the ninth Karmapa, which describe how they conducted the ceremony of the Black Crown. But at this point, I'm not going to recite the entire thing. But the main thing is that when they wear the Black Crown during the lives of the previous comers, the public were encouraged to recite the Mani mantra. 10 million manas, or to perform life releases, or give up conflict, and inspire them to other virtuous acts. So all over in Tibet, actually, it's not just in Tibet, in all of the Himalayan regions in Nepal and in the Himalayan mountain regions, there's a customs of reciting the manis with a melody, right? And there's also the tradition of carrying a prayer wheel with a mani mantra. And these customs are really very widespread. And the reason why the main origin of the reciting the mani mantra and carrying the mani prayer wheel is because during the time of the second Karmapakshi, it came from his time, it is said. And the main reason for this is that the Mahasiddha Karmapakshi's main yidam duty was red chenrizik gyawa jatso. And because he had a vision, and in that vision, the Dakinis of the 5 families told him they should get large gatherings of the public, recite the Mani mantras with melody. And because of the reciting the Mani mantra, then everyone who sees and hears this will be blessed, we said. So he had that sort of a vision. And so because of that, so wherever Karmapakshi went, he would wear the black crown, sing the mantra melody with a melody, and wear the black crown. This is described in many Dharma histories, in particular the feast for the learned. In particular, according to some more recent histories, when Drogten Trippak went to Mongolia, people would say, Karmapakshi is nothing but a mani reciter, he's nothing else. Drogten Trippak was. The Hor Emperors really respected Drogten Trippak, but they said, Karmapakshi doesn't do anything but recite mani. Speaking badly, but in brief, basically the custom of reciting mantras and singing it with a melody, and in particular carrying a mani prayer wheels, this developed in Tibet because Karmapakshi spread them. As the 7th Panchen Lobsang Tenpa Nyingpa and other scholars and masters have said. Similarly, during the time of the Ming Emperor Yongle, the 5th Karmapa Deshen Trippak went to Nanjing. At that time, the main name mantra or Dharma mantra connected to the Karmapa was the Mani mantra. And so when the Chinese first heard the manis, it seemed really strange to them. It's like, now we talk about these today. It's like there's an English joke. We said, oh, money, pay me home. There was a joke. It was similarly for the Chinese at that time. The Chinese would say, money isn't something said by the Buddha. It's something that those Westerners, those folks from the West made up. And so they made a lot of jokes about it. there are quite a few stories about this recorded in the Chinese histories, but it's not time to tell them all today. So basically, for these reasons I've mentioned, we can understand that the Black Crown ceremony aimed at encouraging people to act virtuously. So I think this is something we can understand from that. However, the old good traditions have gradually sort of weakened and disappeared. And so it seems like when people Crown ceremony, it's just a way to collect offerings. You really can't blame them for it. And so because of this, it is important for us to we need to think about what the intentions or aims of the previous Karmapas were and understand this without any mistake or error. So the black crown that was actually worn during the black crown ceremonies during the time of Dusum Khenpa and Karma Pakshi, those fabrics were basically sewn from black fabric. And they didn't have any jewels or any other adornments. For example, the crown of the Mahasiddha Karma Pakshi, that is that Karma made out of ordinary materials, and there's nothing particularly amazing about it. Later, the Yuan and Ming emperors made many offerings to the Karmapas. And because of these many offerings, it was said in Tibet, there was this saying, the Karmapa's wealth has no limit, it said. And the meaning of that is that the various incarnations of the Karmapas collected many treasures from the Chinese and Tibetan and Mongolian kings. And so they received so many offerings. And so this is why it said that the Karmapa's wealth has no limit. But most of these precious sacred treasures were mostly lost during the war with the Mongolian Goshri Khan. And everything was lost during the Cultural Revolution. There was a little bit left during the time of the 16th Karmapa. The 16th Karmapa was able to bring to Rumtek, and so it's his kindness that we have lit. But right now, that's all locked up in Rumtek, and we can't see them. And so this is that unfortunate situation. And so we in the Karma Council should really take to look back at our history. And we should, learn from our losses and learn from our mistakes and take the lessons. This is what it's important for us to do this, but it doesn't seem like many people are actually doing this, as I see it. Generally, when you look at the histories, offered by many crowns were offered by the Mongolian and Chinese emperors. But basically, there are primarily two that we can really clearly identify. And the way we know this is from Karma Trinipa's Questions and Responses, a Summary of Liberation. What it says in this text is, it's very clearly said here, what he says, in the encampment now, there was one made of the Mongolian fabric, the Mongol Emperor Timur Khan offered to Rilpe Dorje, and one called Zamni Yesha, studded with many jewels, given by the Chinese Emperor Qingha to Lord Tongwu Dindan. So there are these two. And so he's saying that there are two crowns. And when you read the lives of the previous Karmapas, it is often said that they wore the crown meaningful to see, or the crown Zamni Yesha. It's often said this. So if we can sort of infer from this that there were two different crowns that were used in the Black Crown ceremonies. But as to when the 16th Karmapa traveled around the world and wore the black and gave the ceremony. So which of these two crowns was it? So this is something that we just can't really determine at the present. And the old lamas from Serpo would say, so they say this quite a bit. But it's like sometimes they have a lot to say, but you're not always certain whether they have a source for that. They have so much that they actually can say. But what they say, the crown that the Karmapa wore is the one offered by Yungbo. So that's what they say. But there are several life stories of the fifth Karmapa Deshin Shekpa. But the one that is probably the most reliable and most authentic is the one written by his own disciple, Tsubo Jamyang Chenpo. Now, what is written in that one is that before the Ming Emperor Yunglo met the Karmapa, he had a dream. And in the dream, what he saw is that before him in the sky, there was the Buddha Ratnasikeng. So this Buddha, surrounded by many bodhisattvas as a retinue. This is what he saw in his dream. And then immediately, the Buddha turned the guru from the west. So when we say the west, that means the west. When we say west, that means Tibet, because it's the west of China. So this means the Karmapa. The Buddha became the Buddha and wearing the black crown. So he had this vision. So later, when he actually met the Karmapa, the opinion of the Karmapa that he'd seen in his dream were exactly the same as the actual Karmapa. And so the emperor was just delighted to see this, and offered him wrote a praise called the the praise entitled the Ratnasikeng adorned with the jewels, and drew a painting of this. And not only that, the emperor made a declaration of the Karmapa's title, giving him particular titles and great names. So giving him basically the same titles as had been given to Dogen Chubak during the time of the Yuan emperors, such as the titles such as Precious King of Dharma and so forth. They're basically the same titles. But he added one word, the word Deshin Shekpa, and the reason that he added this is because that in his of the Ratnasikeng adorned with the jewels. And so for that reason, he added this word. And so because of that, the fifth Karmapa became commonly known all over in all countries by the name Deshin Shekpa. But up to that point, he was actually not called Deshin Shekpa. However, these are all very clear. But there is no historical record of him being of the emperor offering a crown at that time. So I have to say sorry to the old lamas from Serpo. Another thing that the what the old Serpo lamas say is that there was a Zhang crown offered by the king of Zhang, which is a little bit more blue than the present crown. But when the 16th Karmapa left Tibet, and he left it in Tibet, and it was lost during the Cultural Revolution, so there's no way to know where it is at the present. But however, in the life stories of the Karmapas, I haven't seen any articles, any references to him, the Zhang Komdasha, offering the blue coffin, a golden crown. So there are kinds of him offering a golden crown, not any blue one. So I think that if I guess from that I think it's possible that the crown that remained at Tibet may have
지당기 민공만 용류기
well, but I'm not about at 100. And anyway, generally, the Ming Emperor Yunlong also gave Jiangchen Shiji a crown that was black and had the shape of the 5 families. So is that also a crown?
네, sobdati
So it was the same color as the Karmapa's crown, but the shape was different. Likewise, the first Agoshi Gyaltsen Palja Dundrup was given by the Ming Emperor Shangde a black crown. When Agoshi Palja put this on, he looked too similar to his guru, and he's thinking this, and so he offered it as a sacred relic inside a statue. And this is clearly indicated in the histories. So for this reason, just because a crown is black does not necessarily mean that it is the same as the Karmapa's black crown. In brief, Dusum Kempa and Karmapakshi had a custom of wearing the black crowns. And the ones that were later given by the Chinese and Mongolian emperors took the same shape and color, but they made it a bit more elaborate. And they added a lot of different jewels and decorations and adornments. And they used better materials and made it of higher quality. Other than that, but even before the Chinese and Mongolian emperors offered the crowns, there were black crowns. But people just don't understand this. But people think that when you ask why is it so important, people say it's just because jewels and stuff. It's really beautiful. They explain it like that. But when we look at this, it's kind of like the same as the saying about when you're making sandalwood into charcoal to sell it. So it's like important for us to really know the actual situation and when we have faith. Otherwise, so if we just sort of not really know, be ignorant of ourselves and say various things to other people, then other people are just going to laugh. It isn't something that has any reasons or any actual basis. It's like today, I'm just telling stories all day long. I can't really say they're just stories, but okay. So now, also there's the name Karmapa Khenno, which is like a name mantra or a supplication to the Karmapas. And so we can also say that this is particular peculiarity of the Karmapa. But when did the Karmapa Khenno originate? It's difficult to determine exactly when that happened, because it gradually spread among the public who had faith in the Karmapa. And there's no other way to specifically point out one person who began it, said, this is the person. And so it's difficult for this reason. It's difficult to really say exactly. In Tibet, from ancient, and we can understand this from the Dunhuang manuscripts. If we look at them, we can see this. When Buddhism spread in Tibet, eventually the phrases, the 3 jewels note, or the 3 jewels view us with compassion, they did appear. Likewise, once the Karmapa's name became well known, people began to call him out by name and say, you please see, please view me. And so there's this way of calling to him. And these days, there are some Chinese Dharma friends who think that Karmapa Khenno is the Karmapa's name. I think they actually think this. And so when they call me by name, they say Karmapa Khenno.
된다 알아보티 딱 얘기 기도라
Ken from Karmapacheno, what it means is like, it's like saying, please look at me, protect us, look at my joys and sorrows, please watch over us. And so that's what it means. It's basically, it's a supplication.
겁리야 자나래야 버주 세베기 상계의 청주 세베 낭년당
I've seen a text that was printed during the Ming Dynasty called The Images and Name Mantras of the Buddhas and Bodhisattvas. And what it has in is on top, there is a picture of a drawing of Karmapada Shekpa. Below him in Chinese it says, the essence of the Karmapa or Guru, precious Guru, King of Dharma is Om Mani Padme Hum. And then to the left of that, in Lensa script, it reads Om Kama Guru Namo, Om Mani Padme Hum. And in the lower right, in Tibetan script, it says homage to the Lord of Dharma Karmapa, Om Mani Padme Hum. And so for this reason, as I said before, so from the time of Karma Pakshe onward, the practice of the Mani Mantra, that activity of this continued at least until the fifth Karmapada Nyingpa. And so until that point, the Mani Mantra was used as the Karmapa's name mantra, as a supplication. Then later, it gradually changed to being Karmapacheno, and this is used as substitute for that as a name mantra for the Karmapa. So the earliest extant experience of occurrence of that we can see is for the eighth Karmapa Mikya Dorje is for session Guru Yoga. And so this is like the clearest instance of it. Likewise, in Karma Chakma's Mountain Dharma, the advice for mountain retreats, what it says is, as for the supplication to the Guru, or in supplication to Karmapa, means lay or activity in Tibetan. The translation, the meaning is the activity of all Buddhas. Therefore, all the Gurus of the lineage have solely accomplished the activity of the Buddhas, so it is permissible to recite Karmapachena. And so what it is saying, so that in general, when we say Karmapa, name of the Karmapas, but sometimes the names, the followers of the Karmapas. So do you Karmapas? There's something that's so like a way of calling this the followers of the Karmapas. In modern times, in later times when the Karmasam teachings declined, and later that in the region of Lhasa, they'd stopped saying, most people wouldn't say Karmapa, they would say Karmawa. And so that's how they called it Karmawa instead of Karmapa. And still, and then there are people who won't even say Karmawa, who just say Kama. And they even drop the wa. And so that also happens. And some scholars say that this is a way of kind of deprecating way of saying the name, or diminishing way of saying it. But if we look at it in terms of, when we think about it, everyone who accomplished the activity of a Buddha can be called the Karmapa, or the embodiment of the activity of the Buddhas. And so for that reason, anyone who is an authentic Guru is someone who accomplishes the activity of the Guru. And so you can call them Karmapa and say Karmapacheno. And you can use it as a supplication for all Gurus. I think it's fine to do that. And so Karma Chakma says this. And so for this reason, when we recite the supplication Karmapachena, if we keep that meaning in mind as we recite it, I think it's good. If we say Karmapachena, the Karmapa is like unilaterally, solely the few particular individuals in the lineage of the Karmapas. Instead, we should think about it as all the root and lineage Gurus. In all of the spiritual friends of all the Buddhist teachings, all of the gurus and spiritual friends in Tibet. They all accomplish. They're all solely people who accomplish the
呃，
activity of the Buddha. And so and so I think there's no reason why we shouldn't be able to recite Karmapacena as a supplication to all of them. And so for that reason, so from now on, at this point, that's what we have for now. So in generally, the time So I'm getting a little bit confused thinking about the different time zones. There are too many time zones. We're supposed to have another half an hour of time. However, we don't need it. So maybe if you all, it's probably better if you all can get to bed earlier. I think it's fine. So from tomorrow, we'll start at the same time from tomorrow. And we'll have an hour for the first session, and then we'll have the half-hour break, and then we'll get together and have like a half an hour, 45 minutes. And I think if we do it this way, I think it'll be okay. So I think we can say that this is enough for today. It's the first day. So it probably hasn't turned out all that well because it's the first day. We've had problems, but I hope that we'll get better every day. And so now we'll recite the dedication and aspiration prayers.